Are there any differences between men and women when it comes to trading? And if so, what are they? And which one is the better trader, the men or the women? Should we even be talking about this? Hi, I am Pepper, and welcome to the Godly Trading Podcast. And this is our midweek episode where we go into a little more of the nuts and bolts of trading ideas, but we still tackle things from a biblical perspective. So that brings up a good question. Why even talk about this? By the way, if you're just joining us, because we're just getting started, of course, you're just joining us, give me a comment in the chat where you are watching from, both geographically and platform-wise. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or even Instagram, that'd be great. We're trying our best to branch out. Not on TikTok yet, but the youngins want me to do that. So why even talk about this? I mean, men versus women doesn't seem like that's a good idea to talk about. Why would we do? Okay, let me just be totally transparent and tell you what has happened to me in the last couple of weeks. So if anybody has seen any of the ads for the book, or if you've ever watched me on, I've been a guest on several podcasts. I say, hey, we're here to help fathers fulfill the command from Proverbs that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And the ads for the book says, oh, Christian fathers, blah, 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 Christian fathers. And I've had lots of people say, what about Christian mothers? What about women? I've had people say, are we allowed to join? Are we allowed to buy the book? And it's just sort of lots and lots of people have said a lot of things in the last 2 weeks. My father used to tell me that God speaks in that still small voice. Kathy, watching from Wichita, Kansas on YouTube. Thank you, Kathy. God speaks in the still small voice, but if you ignore the still small voice, he's got a 2x4 behind you, ready to speak in a not still small voice. So all that to say that including women in this, and I say this in the webinar that we do, which is one of the most important. If you're watching this, you don't know anything about trading. I like to ask the IT department if the webinar is on our website. It's a free webinar, and the whole point of it is to help you overcome the things hold you back from trading at all. And what I say in there is, look, when I say the word father, I'm rounding up. What I mean is anyone who feels responsibility for their family. If you feel like it's on your shoulders, and by the way, I don't even use the term family loosely. Maybe you're typical husband or wife and 2 kids. Maybe you're a single mom or a single dad. Maybe it's just you and the goldfish. Maybe you're like Mr. Producer and you've got your Call of Duty squad and you're the responsible one, right? You're the one that's expected to bail people out of jail. Whatever being responsible means, that's who we're talking to. But I do recognize that there is a difference between men and women in how they view ads and in how they trade. And that's what I want to get into tonight to see, number one, is there a difference? Obviously, there's got to be some difference. 2, is it applicable to trading? And 3, does it have a biblical foundation? So let me just go with you through a bit of the research here. So in the U.S. and globally, the overwhelming majority of traders, especially Forex traders, are men. About 90% of all traders are men. Only about 10% are women. Yet, here in the U.S., at least, women have about a 2 to 2.5% higher annual return than men, despite men trading about 45% more. Now, there's lots of reasons for that. We're going to go through a few of those tonight, but there is a remarkable difference. Okay, I don't know if 2% is remarkable. There's a difference. And this all came about, by the way, just again, totally honest. I was talking to my wife the other day, who, by the way, is one of those, and I don't know how many of you have a spouse that trades. I don't know how many of you have a spouse that knows what trading is. My wife knows what trading is, has no interest in it, and bless her heart, is willing to sit there and stare at me as I talk to her about it and go, I love her to death for that. But we were discussing this issue. Why, by and large, I've heard that retail specifically, I don't have any details, by the way, on non-retail, people who work for BlackRock and whatnot. That's not the type of trader I speak to. Anyway, and I said, I wonder why it is that women, I have heard, make better traders. And we started talking about what it is that holds us back. She's like, oh, well, I don't have that problem. We're going to get to that specific topic here in just a minute. But back to these statistics. Women tend to use stop losses more often and stick to them. Now, risk aversion might keep some women from entering a trade. But those that do tend to, like I said, outperform men on a risk-adjusted basis. By the way, is anyone surprised? Drop me a comment down in the chat. Y'all, forgive me. August and September are the beginnings of fall in Mississippi, and that's when I don't have spring sneezing attacks. I have it in the fall, and I'm trying to fight one off right now. We will edit that out for the archive. Drop me a comment in the chat if, number one, the breakdown of men versus women as far as 90 to 10, if that, just say yes, that sounds right, or no, I'm surprised. And also the statistic of that women are having 2 to 2.5% return advantage. Let me know if that is the first time you've heard that. So again, let's just go over some nuts and bolts. For the men, we are more natural risk takers. We are, and there's biblical verses to back these things up here. We're willing to pull the trigger. I should probably find a different way to express that on YouTube. I don't get canceled. We're more willing to execute a trade. That's a terrible one as well. We're more willing to enter a trade. We have, some of us at least, have a strong competitive desire and a desire to be the best. That might play into what I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. And we're slightly more goal-oriented. Disadvantage is there. Emotional volatility. Overconfidence can creep in after wins and revenge trading after losses. By the way, speaking of revenge trading, put me a comment in the chat. Yes, I have revenge traded. No, I have not revenge traded. I don't mean ever. I just mean, like, if you have had revenge trading be something that you have fought, something that you've had to deal with. That, of course, leads to over trading. And some men, though, this is probably a factor of social media in general. Some men can be drawn to the get rich quick ideas. That's probably evening out as social media becomes more and more part of our lives. So, men, let me ask you this question. Be honest. How many of you have ever taken a trade because you just had a feeling? Right? You traded on your gut. How many of you regretted it? But it's just like, how many of you out there have ever taken a trade not based on a system, not based on a rule or an indicator or whatever, but just because you looked at it and, oh, my gut's telling me price is doing this. Women, by and large, are slightly more process-driven from day one, following a step-by-step learning plan, a step-by-step execution plan, and typically will use stronger risk management, be that trade by trade or account as a whole. Johnny said, yeah, he has revenge traded. I'm have to cover up the comments here because Mr. Producer doesn't like me doing his job for him. So sorry about that. It is interesting. This was the topic that my wife and I discussed. That in this one area, men are more emotional than women. I do not know if it is empirically true that women are more emotional. We hear that all the time, that in life women are more emotional. I'm not sure how you measure that. Emotional. How do you quantify that? But anyway, that's sort of out there in the zeitgeist. I think it's the first time I've used the word zeitgeist in a sense. But in this particular area, the emotion that can cripple a trade is slightly more prevalent in men. Women use, like I said, they have proper risk management, that have lower emotional swings. They're a little bit steadier. Now, the disadvantages to that are that you cannot trade without putting something without accepting risk. A risk aversion can delay taking good trades. I'm not sure if competitive drive plays an advantage, but if it does, I would say that by and large, women have less of a competitive drive than men do, and possibly can stay in learning mode longer than their male counterparts. Which begs the question, ladies, let me ask you this question. Have you ever watched a trade that was, supposed to be entered into? Have you ever watched it take off, do its thing, and you didn't get in it just because you hesitated? Not because you were saying, oh, this isn't a good trade, but you had a setup and you hesitated for whatever reason, and it left you behind. Does that ever happen to you? Again, we're speaking in generalities here tonight. And that's a terrible idea usually in general. But that's par for the course. I can't. I don't know what the statistics are on several tens of thousands of individuals. So here is the biblical passage that I want to turn to about this. And again, it is a shame that we have to have this discussion. It is a shame that only 10% of traders out there are women. I don't know that we're going to be able to overcome that here tonight. But this is not a battle of the sexes, by the way. My entire purpose for this, because you're probably wondering, why are we talking about this? My entire purpose for this is for each of us to learn from the other. As iron sharpens iron, so one man's, again, man doesn't actually say man, it just says so one. It's a masculine noun, but it doesn't say the word male. So in the Hebrew. So one, Kevin says, yes, because women value security and I want to be sure before I risk my capital, which is my security. Absolutely. We are here to sharpen one another. As iron sharpens iron, so one man, one person, sharpens the countenance of his friends. And one day I will go do a deep dive into how it is that iron sharpens iron. You would think that if two things had the same degree of hardness, that it would be impossible for one to sharpen the other. And yet, it's probably one of those amazing things that God built into the periodic table that says, hey, iron's going to be one of my fingerprints because plastic doesn't sharpen plastic. Wood doesn't sharpen wood. Yet iron sharpens iron. And that's why we're here. So, Proverbs 31. You know, you hear about, Proverbs 31. By the way, we are we're reading a Proverbs a day before we trade as our August challenge. And so we're going to get to Proverbs 31 in whatever 31 minus 13 is, that many days. But it's actually only half of Proverbs 31. I didn't realize that until I went back and read it today. And it talks about women, and it absolutely points to them as being business people. 31, it starts in 10, but I'm going to jump down to 13. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships that brings food from afar. Here we go. In 16, she considers a field and buys it. And from her profits, she plants a vineyard. And so this automatically brings the idea that she's out there to make a profit. I had someone talk to me recently on some social media platform about she was worried that I was one of those. It's funny, we hear these Proverbs 31 women. She was worried that I was one of these Ephesians 5:22 men. I had to go look up what that meant. Which is people who the woman should. Oh, I forget what Ephesians 5:22 says. Basically, I'm gonna redneck this up. The gospel according to Mississippi. Women should sit down and shut up, I believe is the redneck gist of 5:22. Anyway, I'm like, well, hang on. It's impossible for a woman to fulfill Proverbs 31. She has to go out and buy a field. She can't stay inside and sit down and shut up if she's doing that. Anyway, so just the references here to her as a businesswoman. So 16, she considers a field and buys it, and from her profits she plants a vineyard. So she's not only just making profits, she's reinvesting those profits. She perceives that her merchandise is good and her lamp does not go out at night. There's another one in here about she makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine. There's another one in here where it talks about making a profit. Here we go. In 24, she makes linen garments and sells them and supplies sashes for the merchants. So clearly, Solomon, or hang on, this isn't Solomon. This is King Lemuel's mother. I'm not sure who King Lemuel is, but the whole point here is that she has the same business acumen, and she's doing the same kind of thing. So way back when we said, hey, should Christians be traders? And we used the passage from Matthew where it talks about the three servants who were given money and they doubled their money. Well, we can turn here as well. All right. The woman in this passage, she sells a piece of land and uses the money to reinvest it, and she starts a winemaking enterprise. So absolutely, that's trading. Trading is just buying this and selling that. That's all it is. Proverbs, the NIV, she sees that her trading is profitable. That's fantastic. It is interesting how the different individual words. Someone once told me that all translations are interpretations, and that's fine. By the way, I have no affiliation with this. I'm about to say, BlueLetterBible.org. Other than the fact that I donate money to them every month, it's fantastic biblical resource for you, because you click a button and it shows you not only the Hebrew and the Greek, or the Greek, but it'll show you all the different translations of that one verse, and the NIV and King James and English Standard and all on and on and on, like 30 of them. I love that for finding. Myron Golden says that you can't know what the word, capital W, you can't know what the word says unless you know what the words say. So all of these behaviors here are built into what it means to be a successful woman, a successful trader. And she does it. I mean, she said she considers, and I love that bit there from 16. How many, 31:16, she considers a field and buys it. How many times when I look back on my trading, especially as a day trading, how many times did I stop and consider this trade before I clicked the button? I kid you not, there were days when I was sitting there debating and I just allowed my finger to click the button without any thought. That was absolutely not being considered. And I do think that there is an awful lot that we men traders need to learn from women when it comes to applying proper risk management and proper organizational flow. What's the thing called? A decision matrix, a checklist kind of a thing. However, that can be taken too far. I am conjecturing here that one of the reasons that women make up such a small minority of traders is this hesitation, is this fear and desire for security. Hey, I don't want to put what I have at risk because of all of the negative things we hear about trading out there on social media. I do not blame anyone for thinking, who's uneducated about trading. I do not blame anyone for thinking that trading is a scam and that trading is gambling, because that is all you hear. The only thing we ever know about trading is what we see in movies and whatnot. So it's perfectly understandable with that, with the bad public perception of trading, and with the female default position of security and risk aversion, that there aren't as many. But it is a shame, because you get a husband and wife trading team, you take over the world. Or brother and sister, or both if you're Mormon. Oh, I'm going to get canceled for that one. I'm sorry. Y'all didn't hear that. Nobody heard that. I blame Johnny. It was fun while it lasted, he said. Ecclesiastes 11:4-6 here says, talking about men's boldness, says, he who observes the winds will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. And what it's trying to say is, again, with Ecclesiastes earlier, not the birds, it says there's a time, for everything, a time to reap, a time to sow. There's a time to say, I've done my research, everything is there, it's time to go. I can't speak from personal experience, being that I have a why I'm being quiet. You're here, therefore I will blame you. I have a Y chromosome, so I can't speak from a woman's point of view when it comes to hesitation. But it does seem to be borne out in the way that, and look, that we are meant to do this together. One of the most hilarious and applicable verses in the entire Bible, I can't remember the address, but Adam is just finished naming all the animals. And I'm sure as he's doing this, he's seeing that there's a male and female horse, right? There's a male and female gorilla. There's a male and female, whatever, koi fish. And he's looking around and going, I'm all by myself. And God looks down and says, it is not good for man to be alone. And again, the redneck version of that Bible looks down and he goes, that poor old boy ain't gonna make it on his own. He needs a woman. We were made for each other. And the reason that he gave us these, in some ways, from the trading perspective, competing attributes is that so together we would be unstoppable. Bad way of putting it. You know what I'm trying. We would be more successful together. Which is not to say that every male needs to have a female trading partner or vice versa. But it does mean that we need to be on constant guard for those attributes within ourselves that we can that can trip us up. I have said before, and I will continue to say this, that of all the emotions that a trader will go through, the one that is the most damaging is not fear, it's not greed, it's not hesitation. It is 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I mean, hesitation will just keep you out of a trade. 10 feet tall and bulletproof will make you lose everything you have, and if you're on leverage, twice of everything you have. Tony said, "There's a reason my men are like to head." Slow down. There's a reason my men are like to the head female as described as the body. I cannot read. Y'all can read that. We have a dangerous on our own. Yes, we are. And so when we are trading, I think it is well for both of us sexes, not genders, sexes. I'm gonna get canceled for that. I said both, right? Both implies two. Are you canceled for saying that? Not on YouTube, surely not. Yeah. Anyway, yep. It's to just remember that the other side of the equation has attributes that we don't have. All right, enough dilly-dallying around. Let me get to the nugget of truth that started this whole thing. And this is me applying years of stat experience to this equation. So my wife and I are discussing this. And you say, well, why is it that women are better? And this is just me without having done the research, having heard so many courses talk about this. I said, well, tell me what it is from you, Pepper, your experience, that sabotages you. So, well, here's from me, and the reason, if you've read the book, you're fairly brutally honest there about, it was my pride that brought me down. 10 feet tall and bulletproof makes me overtrade. Being right, needing to be right. When I have a losing trade, I internalize that as I'm a loser and that I was wrong, and I hate to be wrong. And there's this whole, and again, it was all wrapped up in pride. We call it in this household, we call it the Babylonian mindset because of King Nebuchadnezzar and his speech to the world that was about 5 minutes before his grazing in the pasture. If you've not read the story, go read the story. It's hilarious. The Bible is funnier than we give it credit for being. Anyway, needing to be right, needing whatever it is now, internalizing right and wrong. All of these things are wrapped up in our pride. And pride, I think, is the number one killer of traders. Doubt and discouragement, right, will cause you to quit. But pride is the beginning of that slide. And she says, "Oh, well, women don't have that problem." It doesn't mean that women are immune from pride. It just means in this particular case, the thing that is the kryptonite for men is like kryptonite to Spider-Man. Or am I mixing DC and Marvel? Okay, never mind. You get what I'm trying to say. Women are immune from the very thing that brings men down in trading. Again, overgeneralized. Pride and needing to be right. And needing to be seen as being right. I told the story Sunday night, I think it was, about my U.S. Swiss trade that I realized I needed to close, but I was down 2 pips, and I did not want to close that trade because it would have gone on my register as a loss, 2 pip loss, and I didn't want, I don't know who, because no one was looking at it, to see that extra. It was my pride. That's what brought me down. And she's like, "Well, women don't have the problem," and it's like, that's true. That's amazing. And I that is what I need to learn from our female traders the most, is how to remove me from my trading in that regard emotionally. And it's all okay. So yes, we hear that women are more emotional, but in this particular case, the one emotion that is the worst for a trader just so happens to be the one that women are immune to. And that's just amazing to me. That, again, one of God's fingerprints, like iron sharpening iron. How does that even work? All right, I'm going to make women the more emotional creature, except in the area of business. And men are going to surround themselves with themselves. They're going to put themselves at the center of their own universe. Okay, I don't want to beat up on every man. Let's just talk about Pepper. Pepper's going to put himself at the center of his own trading universe, and his pride is going to bring him down. Discernment is on a whole different level. Hey, Charles Spurgeon said that the definition of discernment is not knowing the difference between right and wrong. The discernment is knowing the difference between right and almost right. And I think that is in a nutshell. I mean, yeah, sure, close enough is close enough for government work. Horseshoes and hand grenade, right? Close, it's only good enough, but it's not good enough in trading. And I do think that in this one area, that honestly, it would be so great if I finished my thoughts before I finish my sentences. I think in this one area, this is what is missing in the other 90% of traders. It's just a trade. Practical discernment, absolutely. It's just a trade. It doesn't. Our very language needs to change. When we say wins and losses, winners and losers, referencing a trade that either increased your account or decreased your account size, even the very words we use have a psychological effect on us men. If you are a woman in the group watching this or on replay, leave me a comment or drop a chat. Let me know if you have a trading loss and see a trading loser, and it makes you feel like a loser. Do you internalize wins and losses? For that matter, do you internalize the wins? It's just math. At the end of the day, we look at a chart and we don't realize that chart is just math. It's just ones and zeros on a page. And anyway, all that to say that together, we could absolutely be one complete trader, one who knows when it is time. What was that verse from Ecclesiastes that said, he who observes, Ecclesiastes 11:4, he who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. In other words, if you, what's the phrase? Paralysis by analysis. And risk aversion is fantastic, but it can be taken too far. Depends on the emotional stress that there is sometimes. That is absolutely true. So, as Solomon said at the end of Ecclesiastes, let us come to the conclusion of the matter. Overgeneralizing, men are quicker to act, slower to plan, and struggle to keep emotions out of it. Women are quick to plan, slower to act, and excel at consistency and discipline. So, what do we do with this? I think that we absolutely learn from one another. Proverbs 21:5. I love this. The plans of the diligent certainly lead to advantage, but everyone who is in a hurry certainly comes to poverty. How many trades have I taken because I was just 2 weeks ago, I was in a hurry to get out of here and drive to Mobile to see the IT department, and did not take an extra 45 seconds to notice something on my screen, and that was a loss. It was I was going short silver, and silver bounced off a demand zone and sought me out. All because I didn't. If I had taken an extra 45 seconds, but I was in packing mode and driving mode. Man, have you ever been there before? You're already 30 miles down the street before you left the house. You're in go-go mode, and I was not in an emotional place. I was in a hurry, and that particular trade came to poverty. But the plans of a diligent lead to advantage, leads surely to plenty. There's another like the New King James says the plans of a diligent lead to plenty. New American Standard said lead to advantage. At the end of the day, it's all about emotional control. Proverbs 14 says, one who is slow to anger has great understanding. The one who is quick-tempered, I love this, exalts foolishness. Not just exudes foolishness, but exalts it. So, yes, men can learn from women, and women can learn from men. And I think that together, they create an unstoppable force when it comes to trading. And so we need to have as many men and women talking amongst themselves. There's just a few of them. Last verse here. Again, talking about togetherness. 1 Corinthians 9 says, do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. So what am I trying to say? Pick one strength. If you're whether you're a male or a female trader, pick one strength from the other side of the equation, the other chromosome that's either an X or a Y, and find a way to incorporate that into your trading, or at least incorporate that into your maybe not your action taking, but your decision making. Take an extra minute to consider, hey, okay, this is my setup, right? How do I feel? Ignore the emotions that brought me to here. Clear my mind, just trade without emotion. And okay, I've gone down my checklist. It's time to go. Trust that everything that brought me here still works. And I'm not gonna hesitate. I'm not gonna double question. I'm just gonna do it. Right? It says to go, so I go. And so, with that said, I think that encouraging community, because let's face it, we can't all convince our spouses to trade with us. I'm not entirely sure if we even want to, because no two people are going to trade alike. I was going to say if I could bring my wife on the podcast, but I've been told to never do that. Back when we had a farm, and by the way, if anybody would love to see me with Not Gray, you can go to the Peppers Plants YouTube channel and see me raising the boys and the wife with the cows and the chickens and the sheep and the horse. But I was under pain of death, had to edit out every sight of her on all the videos. If I could bring her on here, even the two of us trading the same system would not trade the same way, and that's fine. So, should probably at this point plug the communities that we have. Find a community somewhere. But we have, I should plug the book as well. Yes. The book is written from a male pride goeth. By the way, I always thought pride go before the fall. That is not true. Pride goes before destruction and a haughty attitude before a fall. That's where the book is written from. We have a community. We have several. We have the Facebook group, which is absolutely free. We've got a membership program where we meet on a regular basis together and one-on-one. We've got a Discord channel where a lot of people go and talk during the day about particular trades. There are 1,000 ways you can go out there and find other people to trade with. Please do. You can absolutely trade. Have the wife rewrite the book. I should do that, and I will tell her that you suggested that, and she will track you down.
Johnny.
Good luck, Johnny. I will. It was nice knowing you. Whatever you do, just because you can trade alone doesn't mean you should trade alone. Absolutely find a community and join it. There are plenty of them out there. If you don't want to be a part of ours, I know somebody else you can join their community. They're also faith-based. And the whole point of this is that we as Christians, Christian traders, need to be different. I was watching a video today about why the law, the 10 Commandments and the laws and the statutes and the ordinances were so the way they were, because Israel was supposed to be a peculiar people. They were supposed to be set aside and be noticeably different. We as Christian traders are supposed to be noticeably different. And our entire purpose in doing this, yes, a good man, doesn't say man in Hebrew, it just says it just says the word tov. Good leaves an inheritance. So I'm going to correct my language there. To his children's children. We're here for our families. But ultimately, we are here to be a reflection of his kingdom. We are here to further his kingdom on earth. And my prayer is that Matthew, whatever it is, that so let your light shine before men, that they see my good works and give glory to the Father because of it. That's my prayer every day in what we do. So thank you guys for being here. I sincerely hope that YouTube doesn't review this and then cancel me. If they do, it was nice knowing you all. Yeah. So with that, guys, I'll see you next time. Not bad. That's not bad at all. All right. And I didn't mess up at all.